Yes,
Yes,
teacher.
sir.
Okay, so I type pronunciation of the regular verbs, and we have the simple past. The simple past, I'm not teaching you simple past grammar. I am teaching you how to pronounce regular verbs in the simple past or the past participle. So we're going to start with the first one. We're going to start with a poem. Okay. Now you can see here, you see here the ed, 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 ed. So okay, here we have walk, talked, talked, walked. Okay, so the pronunciation is walk. Pronounce the K, but don't open. Walk, and then put t, walked, talked, cooked. You got it? When we are in the classroom, in an actual classroom, you can hear me better, but online, I need to exaggerate what I'm doing because I want you to hear me 100%. Okay? So you see, walked, talked. Okay? Now, remember, you will say walked, talked only when you are speaking slowly. But when you are speaking quickly, native people, I mean, native English speakers, the native English speakers will uh, will pronounce the T like very minimally. Okay, so walked, 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 talked, 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 walked, walked, walked. Can you hear the T? Okay, now I will read, and later I'm going to ask three people. I'm going to select a volunteer to read. So if you want to read later, let me know. Okay. Now I'm gonna read it first. This is a poem. We walked and talked and talked and walked, walked and talked, talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8. We walked and talked and talked and walked, walked and talked, talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8. You like it? Okay, just think about this. Da-da, 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 da-da. Okay, that is American way of teaching. Okay, so in high school in the US and elementary school, the teachers, before teaching poems, the teachers will say da 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 da. Okay. Okay. Prasad, can you say da 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 da?
Dada, 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 dada.
Okay, that's it. Good for you. Prasad, I did not hear dada. You said nga 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 nga. Okay, forget it. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so dada dada. Okay, so now, okay, okay, remember, even if you are pronouncing the, I mean, okay, you call it, okay, even if you are reading the poem, be sure that you are reading the D, the T sound. We walked and talked and talked and walked. Talked and walked. Walked and, I have to look at it. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8. You see, I had memorized it. I love that. I love that. It's up. Okay, I put here anonymous because we don't know who wrote this. Okay, now volunteer. Anybody?
Can I try?
Oh, Charmin. Okay, wait. Charmin, High Thumb first because High Thumb is happy today, so let him do it. Okay. High Thumb, recite from the heart. Okay. We walk. Okay. Okay, go.
Okay, teacher.
All right, High Thumb. Start with old friends. Okay. Does it have a title? Okay, yes. You say old friends. We walk. Okay, go.
Where is it?
No, start with the title. Old
friends. Old friends, yes. Old friends. We walked and talked and talked and walked. Walked and talked. Talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. We drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8.
Okay, good. High Thumb, you missed something. It should be waited.
Waited.
Yeah, we wait. Okay, well, in natural English, we waited, and waited.
Waited.
Right? But because we are doing pronunciation, you say, we waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked and then go down from 4 to 8. Okay. Okay, High Thumb, can you do the last one? We waited and waited. Go.
We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, everybody, especially the what is this? Navjit, there is something. Your microphone has an echo. Okay. Okay. Listen, everybody here. Especially those who have children who are 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, 8, up to high school. You teach your children this poem. So I will tell you why. Because this is what my mother did, to me. I mean, for me, when I was in elementary school, I was 4 years old. My mother, she taught, because my mother was a teacher, right? My mother taught me poems, adult songs, and nursery rhymes. You know nursery rhymes? Nursery rhymes are the songs for children, like twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder who you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's a nursery rhyme. Or London Bridge is falling down, falling down. Yeah, those are nursery rhymes. My mother taught me those I still memorize today. Now I'm 37 years old, but I still memorize them. Okay, so anyway, don't ask me a question. Plus tax. Okay, so now, okay, you know what happened? I'm telling you this because I want you to do the same for your children. So, so because my mother taught me poems, um, singing, dancing, and nursery rhymes. When I was when I was 4 or 5 years old, my classmates didn't like me. Okay, and we are recorded, so I cannot tell you this, right? But I hope you can guess. Um, my classmates didn't like me very much. So when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and then nobody wanted to play with me, because I was different. You know, I was surrounded by the majority culture. You know what I mean? And so people didn't like me very much. Then one day, the teacher, my teacher, elementary school, said, "We are going to have a celebration." The teacher said, "We are going to have a celebration, and we are looking for the school is going to have a celebration, and we are looking for people who can sing, who can dance, who can recite poems. We need a volunteer." The teacher said, and I was 5 years old. And then I look around, nobody volunteered, and I was too nervous. I was too nervous. And then I raised my hand. When I raised my hand, all of these 27 classmates, children, they look at me and they started, whispering to the classmates. And then the teacher was shocked, was surprised. He said, "Okay, Andrew." And I said, "I want to sing." And the teacher smiled. So the teacher said, can you stand up? We want to hear your singing." And you know what I did? I was 5 years old, almost 6. I sang. After I sang, I sang the song that my mother taught me with choreography. We're like, doing like this, while singing. The teacher jumped at me and hugged me and told everybody in the class, "This is what I want." The teacher said, "Andrew is blah, 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 all the beautiful things." You know what happened after that? At break time, when I went out, all the students, they wanted to play with me. Yeah, you understand me? Now, so if you want to build your children's confidence, you've got to train them not only with English. You've got to train them with singing, dancing, poem, And this poem I'm teaching you right now, We Walked and Talked. This is a very good poem that you can teach your children. And when the teacher says, "Who wants to do?" and they can recite it. Because children, they can memorize poems very well. So that is what I wanted to let you know. So right now you see me, I am very, very confident. And you know this, right? Those who have been to other teachers, like Betty, Oxelia, you've been with other teachers, right? And if you see me, I'm very confident, and I'm confident but nice. I'm a nice guy, Okay, so I just want to let you know, you've got to build the confidence of your children if you want them to be successful in Canada. Because when people are not confident, they do jobs that are uh, less than what they can actually do. Okay, so because they are not confident. Confidence in Canada is as important as being intelligent. Some people are very intelligent, but they are not confident. They cannot, they don't succeed in Canada. But some people are just medium, you know, but like a medium means average. But because they are very confident, they become successful. Being confident is very important. If you are not confident, you're always nervous, you've got to push yourself. If you are nervous in my class, when I say, who wants to read this? If you are a nervous person, you've got to say, oh, Andrew, raise your hand and say, I want to do it. Okay. So now because you know what they say, if you have a problem, find a solution to your problem. You cannot like baby your problem. You know what I mean? So that is very, very important. If you are shy, if when you go out with your husband, especially if your husband is Canadian, when you go out with your husband and your husband is very good in English, tell your husband, honey, when we go shopping, please let me talk. Because you need to practice your English. Do not say to your husband, honey, you talk, your English is good, and you keep quiet. You know what I mean? You've got to push yourself.
We walk and talk and talk and walk. Walk and talk, talk and walk. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walk and talk for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. He walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him, we talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited, the bus was late. So we stood and we stood and talked from 4 to 8.
Okay, very good, Charmin. Okay, but Charmin, the problem is this. The ED you did not pronounce. You have to say, we walked. We walked.
We walk and talk.
No. Charmin, okay, repeat. Okay, can you say walk?
Walk.
And then after you say walk, you gotta do
talk.
No. Okay, so walk.
Walked.
Talk.
Walk. Talk.
It's not easy, It's not. That's why I'm using this as a pronunciation lesson, because it's not easy. Okay. But I'm gonna tell you something, Charmin. Okay, so you understand yourself also. When you were doing the poem, Charmin, your voice, your music, perfection. But I will tell you why. Okay, because the Philippines has the American education. That is the reason why you can do it very well, because you had the same training as people in the US. Like that's why you get ha ha, Yeah, that's the reason. Okay, now, but Charmin, you need to practice more about that too, because this is very important. Okay?
Sir, thank you.
Like, for example, how did you get here? You say, we walk. I mean, how did you get here? I walked. I walked.
I walked.
I walked.
And talk.
Oxelia, how did you get here?
I walked.
Very good, Oxelia. Okay. Hadia is not here. Okay. So, okay, who wants to read? One more person.
Me,
Okay,
Karina.
Shelpa.
I would like to read, teacher.
Yeah, Shelpa, yes.
No, it's Karina, not Shelpa.
Okay. You're
Title
right.
is Old
Okay,
Friends.
Okay, Karina will be the last one, okay? Because we have a long pronunciation lesson. Okay, go.
Title is Old Friends.
Yeah.
We walked and talked and talked and walked. Walked and talked and talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked for 4 to 8.
Okay, very good, Shilpa. Shilpa, go back to this a little bit. Here, everybody, listen to this. This one, you have to blend. You have to say, and look that. Okay, we sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. Okay,
Okay.
Shilpa, can you say looked at?
Looked at.
No. You have to say tat.
Looked at.
Yeah,
Looked at.
looked at.
Looked at.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, Shilpa, can you read this verse? We
Yeah.
sat in a garden. Go.
We sat in a garden and
Careful.
looked at the flower.
No. Looked at.
Looked at. Am I correct?
Yeah. But you know,
Okay.
if you say looked at, you got it. But when you do it in a poem, you cannot do it. Okay, so
Okay.
let me listen again.
We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours.
Beautiful, beautiful, Shilpa.
Thank you.
Yeah, Shilpa. You know what, Shilpa? You should practice this more and teach your children because your pronunciation now is perfect. And I like the way you pronounce the T. I like the way you pronounce the T because it's natural.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, Karina.
Yes.
Okay, Karina.
Okay. We walked and talked and talked and walked, walked and talked, talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We wait and wait. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8.
Okay, very good, Karina. Karina, here we have waited. Can you do this again? We waited. Okay.
We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time, and we're gonna move on to the next slide. We walked and talked and talked and walked, walked and talked, talked and walked. We sat in a garden and looked at the flowers. We walked and talked for hours and hours. He drank coffee and I drank tea. We walked and talked from 1 to 3. We talked about him. We talked about us. Then we walked to the corner to get the bus. We waited and waited. The bus was late. So we stood and talked from 4 to 8. Okay, old friends.